fuck you, a sucker. No one use Zoids. In their lively battle, be your Zoids don't do no guardians. Red horn filters. In Dibble Guardians, we rage. But Mammoth comes to seize control. Red Horn destroyed, he takes his toll. Spinefin serve their new master now. Traitorous Mammoth will not bow. Spinefin march till the blue Zoids die. Mutant Zoid, I'll be battle cry. Red roll as we fight in this age. Against blue guardians we rage. Supreme electronic warfare machine, standing ready to make our Zoids unseen. Dimetrodon forged with Kylo's design. In this last war, the Helic must resign. Dimetrodon Zoid will preserve and our Lord. Radar challenge finds our foes can't afford. Burning out their screens, our armies won't fail. Let planets see ring with Helic Zoid wail. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. The Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on. Dimetrodon changes the battlefield. The radar depth keeps our forces concealed. With these dead zones, their Zoid systems will fall. See, a vast empire will win once and for all. But it wasn't to be as our plans come undone. As death sorrow falls, our chances are none. But Dimetrodon will have one more chance. In the Kylo's army in the war dance. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. The Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. The Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. The Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on. Now Gylos will use the Dimetrodon. The Zoid they help the Xenobots upon. Dimetrodon is once more Gylos' son. Bring the new era of war, Dimetrodon. Electronic warfare is a great con. The Xenobots army won't be outshone. Go Dimetrodon, bring victory, come on.